Okay, no, for the eye, the hand, and also the jaw as well. Bernard, if you want to make some comments on what? Oh, okay, you want to go to the main event, the one. Okay. So the question is if Bernard could talk about the decision. I think you are referring to the scorecard of CJ Ross, which had it scored 114 and 114. You know, when they, and I'm going to have to give it to Bernard in a minute, but basically what happened is when they sent out the list, meaning Nevada State Athletic Commission, with the different judges and the different refs on there, I usually don't, but I did call Keith Kaiser and told him, look, whatever you're going to decide, make sure there's going to be no controversy, that you're going to take somebody where people are not going to question the decision of appointing certain judges or referees or whatever, because the whole world will be watching, the whole world was watching, and obviously that scorecard, I think was a disgrace. And how that judge could be appointed after the decision of the Bradley and Pacquiao fight is not, unfortunately, not a question I can answer. But I would urge you guys from the media to ask the Nevada Athletic Commission, how can that happen, and is it going to happen again?
Yeah, I mean, I'm only going to echo basically real briefly, to be honest with you, it ain't going to be too long with this, because it is what it is. I mean, that is the only negative when it comes to the scoring and things like that tonight. I don't know what Ross was looking at or those scores came from. But this is something that, you know, we can be up here saying why this, why you think this and think that, but it's the writers. I mean, y'all got the magic fingers to the typewriter, or some of y'all still got typewriters, but the computer and also the pen. So, y'all the media. I mean, if y'all feel the same way that most of us feel about the scorecard, then you were right about it, you were say about it, and listen. When fighters get old, they shouldn't fight no more, you jump on and say, look, he should leave, right? Well, we got judges. I don't know how old he was. Maybe he's 90, maybe he's 80, maybe he was whatever. But when you judge fights that was so one-sided, I mean, come on. I mean, I don't care who it is. When it's not right, it's just not right. Cut and dry.
I have no way to go and influence the commission. The commission is doing what they're going to do, and you're going to have to leave it to them. I mean, if it's going to come to the point where a promoter can sway a commission to appoint certain judges or referees, I certainly don't want to have anything to do with that. That's not my job. That's the commission's job, and it should be the commission's job, and no promoter should have any say-so in the appointment of the officials.
Bernard, can I ask you one thing about Danny? Over here to your left. If Danny were to fight Floyd, what do you expect the shape of that fight should take? What challenges did with Danny different than no one else has been able?
To me, it's too premature to talk about the hypothetical. I mean, you know, we don't know if we're going to fight him or not. I mean, you ask him, he didn't say, so I can't even guess and try to burn time up because we're waiting for, you know, Floyd or whoever to come to ask the questions you really want to answer. But I want to say about his performance, if I can. This reminds me, and it ain't about me obviously, I'm doing my job as the promoter. When I talk to most media people, again, y'all humans, y'all should be able to get it wrong. At least some of y'all should think y'all should be able to get it wrong. I know it's kind of hard. It reminded me of 2001 when I fought Phyllis Trinidad, and everybody was saying how hard this left hand is. So the gun that he bought Matisse tonight was taken away from him by a little bit of movement, as I shared in Danny Garcia's new gym in Philadelphia. You give him a little slight movement, don't run it, save the legs. And it's times you're going to have to take some punches to prove that you got a chance, but don't take a lot of them to prove a point. Danny fought when I say perfect fight, they say you can't do anything perfect. That, tonight was one of those fights where he did what he's supposed to do, and with Angel, from my scenes for the last 2-3 weeks, worked on it. It was a masterful performance. He took the man gun away that everybody said it was so powerful, and it was. And we've seen what Matisse actually, with the eye helping, really fall apart. He was desperate the last 4 rounds trying to hit it with any barbie anyway. And Danny at that time was encouraged by the eye being swollen and took advantage of it. I mean, this remind me, because he was such an underdog, what, 7-1, 6-1? I mean, 3-1. I mean, that's with a guy that's undefeated, a guy that's the champion in the division. He's a 3-1 underdog. To me, that's like 17-1. But this man did a great job. And you know what? He's a superstar tonight. He might not have been one starting off. He needed to prove that signature fight. That signature fight every fighter needs to say that or y'all to say that we believe this guy's a superstar. Obviously, you know, you do great numbers in seats, butts in the seats. But he showed me tonight that he reached that level, man. That was a great performance. It was the fight of the night, as far as I'm concerned.
5 minutes for Canelo.
Richard, I was wondering, right here in front, to your left. I was just wondering do you feel, and I know you have to talk to Floyd, but do you feel that makes sense, a Danny fight? If Floyd is interested, does that fight interest you? Do you think that makes sense? Especially given Floyd won a 54 title tonight and Danny was at 40.
Well, you know, I'm going to have to sit down with Floyd and his team, and I'm really not prepared to discuss any names, whether it's going to be somebody at 47, 54, who knows, maybe even at 60. So we just have to see what's out there and put together a big fight again.
Do you see anybody, you know, Canelo obviously has a passionate fan base and everything, so he can turn this into a big promotion because some people thought he might win. Do you see anybody out there that could do the same thing to make a fight as big as this is, given the landscape of who would be available to fight Floyd?
Well, I think Canelo was and still is a big star. I think those people who came out for Canelo tonight, they will come out for Canelo again. And so I really don't think the sport has, right now, a Mexican star of that magnitude. So, you know, we just have to see what we can do. But, you know, I think what we saw tonight again, how brilliant Floyd Mayweather is. And I think at this point, it just almost doesn't seem to matter who you put in front of him. Probably could put the Klitschko's in front of him and beat them too. So, I mean, it is a once in a lifetime, once in a generation, maybe a once in history that you see a talent like that. I mean, Canelo is a young, strong guy, and the way he just dominated it. But that's what he has been doing with everyone. Look what he's done with Juan Manuel Marquez or anyone else. So we'll have to see what we can do for Floyd for his next fight. But the good news is when you are the pound-for-pound king, the list of guys who want to fight you never seems to get shorter. It always seems to get longer.
Right now, who would you put at the top of the list? And right now, what's in your mind for Canelo?
I haven't really thought on either one. You know, I don't think that, I think Canelo is probably going to be fighting in one of his next fights, maybe the next fight for a world title again. So we'll have to see what the landscape out there is. You know, still would love to see if, let's say, Miguel Cotto wins a Cotto Canelo fight. Who wouldn't want to see that? You know, the same, by the way, is with Lucas Matisse. It's these kind of fighters who you would love to see. I mean, who wouldn't want to see a Matisse Maidana fight? There's so many great matchups there. Just because you lose a fight, the good news is that boxing has learned that you don't have to go back in line and start from the bottom again. And losing against the #1 pound-for-pound fighter, you know, there's no shame in it. I think Canelo learned a lot tonight, 23-year-old, and you know, so we'll see.
Richard, so I was just wondering what you thought about how quick you'd like to turn Canelo around. If you think it's important for him, after going through this massive promotional ordeal for the last several months and then suffering the loss tonight, if you think it's important for him to kind of get right back on the proverbial horse and get back into fighting, or if it's better for him to take a little bit of time off and kind of regroup and see where he goes from here?
Well, that's totally up to him. I mean, totally up to him. I can see a reason for either one. But the fact is, you know, he had a long camp, worked very hard for this fight, and I think, you know, he should spend some time with his family in Guadalajara, and then when he's ready, we will be ready, and I know that the fight fans will be ready, because Canelo is an exciting fighter, and he's a very charismatic fighter, and as we've seen with Juan Manuel Marquez. I mean, after losing to Floyd Mayweather every second of every round, he became bigger than he ever was. You know, the same is true for Victor Ortiz. The same is, I think it just elevates all these guys to a totally different level. And I think Canelo today is bigger than he ever was. And so we'll let him decide. But if he tells me he wants to fight before the end of the year, we're ready. If he tells me he wants to fight sometime in the first quarter of next year, we're ready. If he wants to fight in May, I'm ready. You know, we'll see. And there's going to be plenty of good fights at 150, plenty of exciting fights one can make at 154.